Right, a lot. I've never worked so hard in 20 years, I tell you. The first day of the lockdown, Alex Moyle, in the gym, in the recruiting gym, we started the daily stand-up. So from that day one, we put webinars out. We did everything for free for about 3-4 months to help people get through. We thought it was going to be 3 weeks. And we just kept going and kept going. So we've now got still 3 courses that are free. So this one, we've got Ask the Coach on Friday lunchtime every other week, and Meet the Expert. So you can get free training session on Meet the Expert, free coaching on Ask the Coach, and free inspiration, hopefully, in success stories. So join up in the recruiting gym and access those 3 courses straight away without anything else. So we feel like we have helped, and certainly the testimonials that we've had some amazing ones, and people saying, yeah, we've kept them going. So I feel really proud about that in the recruiting gym, that we made a big difference last year, and we're still doing it because we're still there.
Yeah.
What about you?
And make sure you share that link in the chat, and I'll pop it on the blog post afterwards. So the question was, what have you done to help others? So we did something sort of similar. We did our working lunches. So Claire Bush sent me a message on Facebook, like on, day 2 of lockdown, like, oh my God. So we started at the working lunches every day at 1 o'clock. We're getting people together for a conversation. And that's really broadened into something else with, I think, 6 different hosts now. We're doing them once a week. They're still going. They're going to go throughout all of 2021. And I've loved that. And it's brought together other people who've taken it on and kind of run with it. So that's really, really cool.
This was a hard question because you don't usually like telling people that, do you? It's the thing is, if you do something good for somebody, don't tell anybody else, and then it's really good. If you tell anybody else, it's a bit of a thing. Anyway, I will tell you last. So when the pandemic first happened, I had just built up my coaching business, was really going well. I had some great clients, and we were, as a growth consultant. I'm now a survival consultant, I think, just about to be a growth consultant again. And I thought, right, if I was running this business, it's a terrifying time for people. The first thing is, I just thought they're going to need my help more than ever, but they're going to be cutting costs more than ever, and that's what I'll be telling them to do. So before anybody sacked me, I decided to work for free for 4 months, and I rang all my clients and said, just so you know, I'm here much more than I normally earn for you, and I want to help you through this. And half of that was because I just built up all my clients. I didn't want to get the sack and then forget to take me back after the pandemic. But also it gave me a sense of purpose. I was stuck at home. I was suddenly sitting here. If I didn't have my clients, what was I going to do with myself? So feeling in the morning that you're achieving something's really important. So I spent a lot of time with my clients, did lots of good stuff for them. But another good thing I did was I said, if any of your people are working from home and you want me to call your staff, I will call your staff as an independent person and have a chat and see if I can use my coaching and counselling skills to help them. And that was the most, purposeful thing that I did. I spoke to hundreds and hundreds of people's employees, and I'm sure, I'd like to think I helped them in some way, because I believe just talking helps. But at the same time, it really filled up my days. It kept me from not going insane. And some days it's sad, and there was a real miscommunication. But before, you've got a CEO who's suddenly got all their staff working at home. They can't see them. They've got KPIs. They're really putting pressure on without meaning to. And you've got people at home saying, help me, I'm really struggling here. And when you're having a coaching session with somebody and the dog's barking and there's 2 kids crawling on them, and at the same time they're getting text by the CEO, have you got those CVs out yet? You realise what people went through last year. So I think I did a little bit to help some of those people to, think of ways of taking time out, looking at how they're doing things, and help them see the positives and the motivation to keep on going. And I think the sad thing is now there's a few people coming out of the last year, having had a bad year, saying, I'm not sure I want to work in recruitment anymore. And I'm saying, you didn't work in recruitment last year. Recruitment isn't stuck indoors on your own, not being successful, not making placements and being sort of, monitored by KPIs. That isn't recruitment. Recruitment's what's coming this year. So hold on in there.
I kind of cringed a little bit trying to answer this, because it's the imposter syndrome coming out, right? Because my first instinct was, we're just all trying to get through this and keep our family safe. But just a couple of bits that I wanted to mention. So I'm the chair of Lean in Leeds, which is a 850 people strong, mainly women, but we welcome everybody network based in Leeds. It's a global movement. And Leeds has got the biggest UK network outside of London, and it's just a powerhouse of brilliant people for people at any age and stage to kind of come together and support each other and lift each other up. So we've been putting on lots of events for that. We've got something coming up for International Women's Day on the 8th of March, and we put one on in January, which was about joy, positivity, and connection. At the moment, we did that on Blue Monday, which was quite apt. So putting on online events like that has been, I guess, my main helping focus. I'm a volunteer coach for SMEs for Leeds City Council to try and help businesses. And I guess the thing I'm most proud of is founding the Authentic Recruitment Movement. I had my period at the start of lockdown last year where I was basically like, what do I do? How do I get through this? And the Authentic Recruitment Movement is kind of what came out of that. So that is a community, mainly on Facebook at the moment, because the functionality is a lot better than LinkedIn, quite frankly. It's events, it's workshops, it's coaching programs. And we've got a podcast as well, and that's all about values-led recruiters who want to come together and support and inspire each other and collaborate and kind of lift each other up. So that's totally free. So if anyone wants to come and join us, that'd be amazing. And I just think values-led authentic recruiters need to come together and thrive through this, and that's how we come out of all this smiling.
Well, again, I'm not going to big myself up, but at different levels, I think you at one level as a leader or someone that's supposed to give direction or help, keeping your head when those around you are losing theirs. Certainly going back to 12 months ago, everyone was scrabbling around thinking, oh my God, are we all going to go bust? Do we fire everybody? Do we do whatever we do? And remembering that there's always a period of disruption and then things do return to normal. It's a question of how quickly that happens. Yeah. Unless we're all going to get wiped out, that's going to happen. So trying to maintain a balanced approach and preventing panic from ensuing was probably the most important thing. Also doing the right things with the business and with the people in the business and making sure that balance sheets were strong, all those good things. But that was the first thing. The second thing, just tactically within each of the businesses was just ensuring that there was empathy and that there's actually sort of hard support, financial, physical, ensuring that there's consultative support for people who are struggling is there. But I think everyone's been doing that. There's nothing different to what everyone else will be doing. From a personal perspective, I've got I had lots of returning grown-up children heading back home, including one or two who have been furloughed or found themselves in between jobs and then no job at all. And it's through them that they got involved with a really interesting charity called Food for Heroes, which was the feeding of the NHS. In fact, my daughter was one of the directors there for a number of months. And so I ended up being a delivery driver, delivering food around the place, which was just perfect for me, just absolutely great. And all I say is that some of the stories of the achievements of people, the work behind the scenes for nothing over the course of the last 12 months has been inspirational. So brilliant.
Fantastic. Yes, Food for Heroes, that's been brilliant, hasn't it? So wonderful that you got to get involved in that, and obviously from your daughter as well. We'll say thank you to her from us and all of us and all of those that have helped through that. And thank you for your time, Miles. I know you're really busy, so really appreciate your time to share with us a little bit more about you, getting into the man rather than the business.
No, it's a pleasure, Angela. And as I say, it's anything that goes and if anything can be used in a small little way to go and help someone just do a little better or feel better about themselves, then happy to help. And really good for you to doing this. So very happy to support it.
It is a difficult question, isn't it? Because it's like, haven't you been a really good girl? Gosh. So when I first set up my business in March 2008, we had the financial crash in September 2008, and all revenue, pipeline, everything dropped through the market. Loads of people made redundant, and I handled it pretty well, but I didn't quite know how to do that. With the pandemic, it's been completely different. It's so personal. It is it's affected people in so many different ways. And for the first, well, I mean, initially, you know, it was a bit of a shock with the way it had an impact on certainly my market and definitely my pipeline. I had situations where agreements were made, people start dates sorted, even situations where candidates had resigned but then retracted their resignations so they could then go on the furlough scheme. I mean, it was just bizarre. And some clients handled it really well, some clients not so well. But after about 4 weeks, I kind of just accepted that I wasn't going to make any money last year. And that's a position that you can only really make if you're running your own business. It's not something that you can do if you're working for somebody else. And my heart goes out to so many people. But I was talking to hundreds of recruiters that just felt like they'd been thrown into the thick of it. You know, guys that are living in 1-bedroom flats with a kid in London and being asked to work from home and still deliver the same KPIs that they were delivering before. It's just impossible, So I spent the first couple of months just talking to people, understanding their situation. And then once I accepted that I wasn't going to make any money, it made it very easy for me to do other things. And that just kind of introducing people within my network, anybody that was out of work, any recruiter that was out of work that I introduced. Also, all my searches, I work on a retained basis, but all my searches were cancelled pretty much, except for one. And those clients that I was still working with, and I even gave back money on a retained assignment. I don't give money back ever. Right? Like if you retain me, then you know I do the work. But it was clear that I wasn't going to be able to deliver. So I actually put myself in a financial situation where I gave retainers back, and then introduced candidates to certain clients that I thought were really worthy of those introductions. If they were out of work, there was no fee.
No. Wow.
So I know, you know, I'm talking to people now that have been in jobs for 6 or 9 months that I introduced, but I didn't charge a fee for. And I'm very fortunate. I was in a position where I could do the right thing and not see everything as a pound sign. It just didn't feel right making money from people that were going through so much hardship.
The first thing I did was I reached out to my community and I set up some mastermind groups for business leaders and the entrepreneurs. And we got together on a weekly basis and we set out some mastermind groups where we could share best practice, keep people up, you know, but just generally have conversations. Now, some of those dwindled off when businesses started allowed to be open in June, July. Some of those dwindled off, but we've still got 2 of them running. We've got a solopreneur one, which is just for people who work on their own. And we've got a mastermind one, which is full of my clients. That was the first thing. I reached out to my recruitment community. So I had some colleagues who work specifically in hospitality and event management. So they obviously were continuing to finding it tough. And we shared vacancies with them where we could. So we did some splits to keep them something coming back and, you know, keeping that relationship. And if it was going to take a lot of energy from our team because it wasn't our niche, then why not engage with one of those and get their support? We also created new products. So that first 3 months of lockdown, no one wanted recruitment from me, Angela. Yeah, so I had to go and earn our crust somewhere else. So one of the products we created was Rapid Team Recovery, and that was profiling people still in the business.
Can you just say that again?
Yeah, Rapid Team Recovery.
Rapid. See, I had rabbiting, and I wasn't sure that was right. So Rapid Team Recovery, that makes more sense.
Rapid Team Recovery. So what we did, we looked at the people that are still in the business, we profiled them using the talent dynamics, and then we put them in the right jobs. And it was a temporary measure until they were ready to bring people back. But it stopped them having someone who did sales order processing behind the scenes, going out and selling or even doing credit control, you know, because it just doesn't work. So yeah, we created that. We created our Talent for Good product, which was done in Tau back in February, but we launched it in October. And that is only for business owners, business leaders who don't have HR support. So we actually turn more away of that than what we sell of it, because it's a very niche product for certain people. And then career coaching was another big one that we did, and that was a global product. So we work with people in the US, in New Zealand, in Australia, in Japan, where we've talked to them about what career steps they should be doing next. And these are generally people at a senior level who have gone, do you know what, this has made me evaluate things differently. What else can I be doing? And looking at the purpose, that bigger purpose, what do they want to be part of? So there's some of the products. I also mentored and facilitated with the Genius Group. So that was a really stroke of luck or opportunity. They approached me in June to say, could you join us as a facilitator for the Crisis Leadership Academy, which was the first one. I've been working with them ever since. So I'm just on one at the moment, which is the Educator 5.0. That's given us opportunities now. So whilst I was helping others, I was also helping us and creating opportunities I wouldn't have normally got.
Right. Well, apart from make sure my children were online every morning at 8:30 in the morning, because let me tell you, they wouldn't have done it otherwise. But they're doing their GCSEs and A-levels this year. And anybody that says, oh, but they're not doing exams, it's not like that. The schools have got to get it right this year. They're making sure they do assessment upon assessment upon assessment. So they have been working flat out. But I mean, my mum's 81, so therefore she was shielding. So of course I did a shopping, went to see her every day. We did the business things like we deferred sort of rent for our properties that we own. So, because no one knew how this was going to pan out or how they were going to be able to pay rents or anything like that. So we did defer that. But the biggest thing I would like to think that I was a sounding board, because I've got a lot of friends still in recruitment and my sister's got her own business, and it's been a worrying time. If business has deteriorated a little bit for everybody, and so therefore if they could have a moan or what do you think of this or what do you think of that, so it was really just sort of talking to them. And recently I've been doing sort of, as my sister's trying to build up a business again, we've been doing mail shots, sending them out, delivering and that sort of thing. And another thing, I'm really proud of my girls, because my friend Tracy, she was sort of recruiting for all the COVID testing sites. So of course I encouraged them, and they applied to work at the testing sites. They've been working there since January, just to try and keep this dreadful virus under control, so we know where it is and so we can stamp on it.
Well, people who know me will smile. I fed people. And whilst, I wasn't very good at banging the wok for the NHS on a Tuesday night at 8 o'clock or whenever it was, I'd much rather become more active. So one of my business partners is one of the major shareholders in Gale's Bakery. Mm-hmm. So he very kindly gave up a lot of pastries and cakes. So on a Friday night, I would go and pick up 2 massive sacks of pastries and cakes and bread from Gale's Bakery and take them to the ICU units of some of the hospitals that we deal with, to really say thank you to the people that were kind of at the coalface. Because, as everybody knows, we all like a bit of carbohydrate when the going gets tough. When there's a bit of anxiety in life, a good cake or an eclair tends to do the trick. So that was my little thing that I think could make a difference. But I think it pales in insignificance compared to the sort of random acts of kindness that more meaningful people did. And I'm still concerned that the kind of medicine of lockdown perhaps has done as much damage or more damage than the disease itself. So, we've still got all the mental health issues, the addiction issues to come out, domestic violence, people's houses being repossessed and people losing jobs. So I think there's an enormous amount of work still to do over the next year or two that cakes won't help with.
No.
So that was my little thing.
No.
Well, the first lockdown was pretty sort of focused just on family, if I'm totally honest. We were lucky enough to have both my son and daughter living at home at that time. They just happened to be at home. My daughter was not separated, but her boyfriend was living in a separate house, and so they weren't together on the day it was announced lockdown. So we just said, look, we can't go anywhere, we can't do anything. Let's just bunker down and have family time, which is family time we probably would never have got, which was great actually, because the weather was superb, wasn't it? So that first lockdown was time I would never have had with the kids, which is because they're 25 and 23 then. So I did help we live in a small village, so I kept an eye on the elderly and checked on how they were doing. I picked up prescriptions for some of them and stuff like that. So I did the good bits, but mainly focused on me and the family in that first bit. Then going forward, I suppose I was always on hand for clients on the phone, and then later Zooms. I didn't even have Zoom set up because, as I said to you, I didn't market my itself that way. And family, I've still got 5 brothers and sisters still alive, so kept in touch with them and kept trying to keep them sort of chins up and all the rest of it. And I'm also a trustee for a charity called Partica, who basically fund charities for the over 65s, for the lonely, etc. And I'm particularly involved in the Wiltshire Community Foundation, and they did some great things for people in COVID. So that was quite an active thing, not for me to be involved in, but to be able to gift money to those charities, which was terrific.
If I'm able to giving is and being grateful are things which are so important, and I think I always felt that, but also may have to do with getting older, getting probably a bit wiser as well, that these two things, being grateful and giving back, and is something which really is very, very meaningful. And so with Enterhead, we do the forums 2 times a year, where we give all our community a forum and workshop where they meet one-to-one, have one-to-one mentoring, meet corporate partners, and we set up a very nice flow of speakers about very important topics to them. And normally we charge 120 euros per forum, and we, because of the pandemic, decided this year to do it for free, so that all our community members, and also those especially who are now not able to go back to work or are unemployed and have difficulties, they have financial also limitations. So for them, money is critical, and we are also a revenue-driven business, but at the same time, we felt this is our way of giving back to the community, because it's also our way of saying thankful and being grateful for having a good team and being able to expand now to Asia, etc.
So I want to say, like Miss World, I want to stand there. I want to help the young people and all this type of stuff. No, so I haven't done that. But what I did do, and I do feel quite good about this, the furlough scheme. Mm-hmm. So furloughs for temps. Now, when it, and this is again because of my addiction to the news, when the furlough scheme came out, first of all, we obviously, all of us thought to ourselves, what can we do for our own internal staff about furlough, because we didn't know how it was going to go. But then when I really understood what furlough was about, I realised that potentially it could be used for paying. If you think about it, look, I had over 2,000 temps who couldn't, especially at the beginning, and it required a lot of reading to really understand whether it would be okay to pay temps, because it wasn't that clear, and a lot of lobbying as well. So I took it to the FCSA and REC and organisations like that, and then we took it to Rishi and said, you need to give us some clarity around how does it work for people on 0 hours contracts and temporary agency contracts and things like that. And we got some clarity. It wasn't perfect clarity. And in fact, it did cause a bit of an argument at the FCSA about whether we would furlough at minimum wage or on the minimum wage plus the additional pay. And that's all to do with umbrellas and stuff. And I had some very feisty arguments about it. And I insisted that I would do it. And we did do it in Number Mill. Obviously, when it started to cost, obviously, because you as an employer, you had to give that money. It cost us. We couldn't afford it forever, but you know, we did do it as long as we possibly could. And I know that we had lots of temps emailing us in, thanking us. You know, we had temps in tears on the phone asking us what we could do for them and stuff like that. So I personally feel I worked hard at it.
Well, I'd love to reel off a series of things that I've been involved with, but I haven't really done as much as maybe I could have. Just to put it into context, I relocated from Hong Kong back to Tokyo in May last year. So it's challenging in a pandemic. There's my wife, myself, my dog, and 3 others on the plane. So so it was challenging relocating, getting back to Tokyo, reestablishing our life here. And I think since then I've sort of been involved with some family issues. One member of the family caught the virus, which is unfortunate, now recovered. This is working with family members across the world because my family is literally split across the world. But what I have done, I guess, is I've made myself just more available and more open. So I've done some pro bono coaching, a lot more career advice. A lot of people just reach out to me generally just to pick my brains on things that we have in common, or markets that I know better than them, and so forth. So, you know, always take a call. Always try to, particularly during a pandemic, and particularly when I see that people are struggling, really make an effort to reach out and support. So, yeah, probably not as comprehensive an answer as you would have had from others.
Well, we have a very nice testimonial from a lady called Chloe Guerin, who is now working for Aspire. And during the pandemic, she was somebody who came to us who had actually a lovely CV, but I just knew because of her experience and her billings at the time that it would be difficult for us to get someone to pay a fee for her over the pandemic. So we actually recommended that she ring that client. We actually helped her through the whole interview process. The client was completely unaware until the end, and she got the job. And I'm pleased to say she's still there and doing really, really well. And in fact, I posted about it. We gave her a pseudonym at the time because she was working for another company. But we got so much support. It was like people were following her, us following her story on LinkedIn. Obviously, you know, we spoke to over 1,000 recruiters at the time who'd either been made redundant, they were on furlough, gave them CV advice. We did training. We were doing a lot of stuff on personal branding at the time. So we did a lot of free courses around personal branding. Lots and lots of things. I just think at the time, our sector was hit particularly badly, the recruitment piece. And all we could really do is sit there and give as much support to recruiters as possible because they have very long memories. And hopefully it will come back. It already has actually in leaps and bounds in the future, because I think how you treated people through that time was really important.
So we're a head office recruiter, and my niche, my personal niche for recruitment is HR. So I used to run a networking group called I still run the networking group called the HR Huddle, which is specifically for HR professionals. And because I recruit HR professionals as well, it was evident when I was talking to my client base and my candidate base how much they were struggling during the pandemic. And so, whereas we were used to meeting once a quarter for a face-to-face networking event, we weren't able to do that. So very quickly, what I decided to do was to put networking events online. So we, and during the kind of the beginning of the pandemic, where so much was changing so quickly, we were running webinars like every couple of weeks so I was speaking to people, finding out where their challenges were, because everybody was going through very similar things at the same time, no matter what industry they were in, understanding the furlough system or trying to engage a remote workforce, redundancies, then they changed the furlough system. So what did that mean? All the employment law updates. So then I would get guest speakers that were knowledgeable in those particular areas to come onto webinars and talk to my community of HR people. From there, it grew to business owners as well, because lots of SME businesses that didn't have HR people really needed that support and guidance. So we found out the webinars were so well received. We would have 100 odd people on the webinars, and they were so grateful for the help and the assistance. And I thought, well, actually, people need to be able to talk in between meetings. So we set up a Facebook community specifically for HR professionals and a separate one specifically for business owners, where they could share and talk in between meetings. So if somebody set up a hybrid working policy, they would share it within that community. Yep, hi, that's worked really well. And the feedback from the people who have been part of those communities, so the HR huddle and the business growth community, have been really positive.
So what have you done to help people during this pandemic?
Well, the people I work with, my community is the recruitment community, or businesses that serve the recruitment community. So things like Cube 19, Six Cats, those sorts of things are the businesses I work with. So I've worked with them to help generally their customers. And it's a variety of different things. I'm not going to go into specifics of what I've done personally, but it's find out what the customers need, and encourage the management, if they're not already on that trail, and in fairness, most of them were there before I was, to move down that route, to make it easier for people to still be there at the end of it. Because again, the age and experience thing, we are going to come out of this. It is very different. And the big difference is not so much the pandemic and lockdowns and what have you, it's the power that governments have taken themselves. And that probably the whole thing worries me more than anything else. So I suppose my advice at the moment would be aware of what you're giving away, especially in these very data conscious days. So it's focusing on the specifics within each of those businesses, whether it's furloughing staff, how to deal with that. Very early on, I did some work with Recruitment Network on the furlough scheme when it was first brought in, and interpreting it and how to use it and what have you.
Yeah, because it was so new to all of us, wasn't it? I mean, so many people didn't even know
the words.
Furlough meant. It's like, what's furlough?
Exactly. Well, furlough to me was something that the military, particularly the US military or the Navy, you would have my dad was in the Navy, in the Royal Navy, but you'd go on furlough, which is basically you'd go on shore, you'd be off the ship for a period.
So there was a term that, yes, you were aware of. Whereas when I first heard it, I suddenly went, furrow? For what? Like a field? No, furlough. Oh, okay.
Isn't that something to do with horse racing? That's furlong,
Yes.
I know exactly what you mean. We were all there.
So the thing we did as a business, I thought was a really good idea. Actually, it's my co-founder Richard who came up with the idea on this. Was we started a podcast at the time, and the initial point of the podcast was to put a bit of positivity back out there. So with all of the doom and gloom that was going on, actually, it was called The Next 12, and it was talking about really how you're coping with the next 12 hours, days, and weeks. So a chance to get people to talk about who they were and what they did. And actually, we're rebranding our podcast at the moment. It's going to be called Heart of the Press. It's going to be called Consult Connects, and we're talking to real leaders and innovators in the energy sector. But at the time when we did The Next 12, it felt like with everything going on and a lot of negativity, having an opportunity to talk about some stuff which was, maybe how people are coping. People were really struggling at that time. So we found that was quite a good thing to do. What else did I do in terms of the pandemic? I think just trying to check in with people, really, being mindful of the fact that there are people that are probably not as fortunate, and, there's only so much you could do because obviously, people weren't allowed to leave the house for a lot of it, but just almost knowing that, you were there for people. And we tried to be, as we could, as flexible as we could be with people in the office. And, I think the thing we did quite well, which I'm quite proud of, is we were just tried to be as supportive as we could be. We didn't we didn't let anybody go during that time. I know not every business was lucky enough to be able to do that, but we were quite proud of that fact that we kept everyone that we wanted to keep, obviously in the job. So that was great as well.